Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Wednesday, March 18th. Let's see, playing 25 lands is a pretty easy thing. Attacking with 30 creatures is actually less easy than it would seem, in comparison at least, because if I'm playing my black deck to get up to maybe platinum tier in the next 13 days, the black deck is not particularly the best deck for that, since often you won't attack with creatures even if you can. We have now 28 days to maybe get this up above bronze tier, which would be interesting, and to get up to 3,000 gems. And where that puts us on the mastery level, as far as how many gems we're going to get. There's 200 at the next level, 200 here, 200 here. So that's 600, which puts us just 190 gems short. So we're going to do another Ravnica draft today. Let's see what the daily deals are. The featured deals, honestly, shouldn't be the first thing that pops up, since they don't change. Yeah, it's just a bunch of skins. And, well, there might be some way that if you get a skin if you would get a skin you already had, you'll get maybe 20 gems, I think, instead. That doesn't really work, though, even on this 80% off very cheap skin here. That would still be 80 gems. So yeah, you would just have to be crazy interested in owning the skins for every card you played, which would be crazy. In fact, more and more, as you realize it and start to think about it, it is rather crazy that you're playing standard at all, and that the game pushes you into standard, because we are definitely on the verge of this. We're on the verge of the standard cards being banned, and then you'll have to start over from scratch. This is interesting because this is going to give you the Haversack of Favor, which I have no idea what that is. Like, there's no indication. And we're going to be playing a Historic Anthology 2 deck, which is either the Empty Throne. Let's double click on that. Let's see. Is some cards that I definitely don't recognize. Seems like it's a green-white deck with the green creatures. With constellations. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a 4/4 white angel. Okay, so this is the thing. Sigil of the Empty Throne. You want to play that with that deck. And then all of these cards are helpers to create 4/4 angels or buff up 4/4 angels. Interesting. No sideboard. Alright. And that is going against Wasted Not, which honestly probably is smarter to go the other way. Let's see. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. So we've got several cards that probably synchronize somewhat around this. Whenever an opponent discards a card, create a 2/2 black zombie. Interesting. Now, there was talk on a YouTube thing. I'm watching far too many Magic the Gathering YouTube videos for the fact that I really don't care about it that much, but I'm trying to learn. That fetch lands, as they're called, are the most expensive cards, and you have to have them to play them in everything except standard. Um, Fetch lands I don't think are being used here, other than things like Fable Passage. That probably is a fetch land of some sort, but it's probably the weakest way in which that would happen. There doesn't seem like there actually is anything labeled as a fetch land. It may be that there's lands that have the word fetch in it. I guess we could come into the collection and see if we could just type in the word fetch and see what shows up. Let's see. FETCH. Yeah, there's nothing that actually has the phrase fetch in it. So, let's see, how would one look at land only? Collected, not collected, not basic lands, but a land. Yeah. So you have many skins that are infinitely given to you as far as many different types of lands. It's kind of ridiculous though, like with the exception of some of these that you actually don't get infinite versions of. The artwork here at best is acceptable, but it's nothing really to write home about. And it would almost be more interesting if there was a side-by-side collage that they made every year, where if you had 4 different versions of planes, you put those 4 different versions of planes together and it makes a interesting art piece. Or even if for every expansion if you put all 5 of the different colors of lands together, it creates an interesting art piece. But yeah, there's nothing like that, at least to my knowledge. It seems like they're going to release some new things that look even crazier. They're getting down to the point where now they're not even labeling this as a basic land, which I think is probably going a little too far. You probably don't need to repeat the fact that it's an island, since it says island at the top here. So if you got rid of the top bar and just had the bottom bar that said basic island and blue mana, that would probably be alright. But the vast majority of Magic land cards have looked like this and are going to kind of consistently look like that. And there's probably some tournament legal reasons for that. You don't want to have a card that is full frame like this that somebody might be able to see an edge of, and that might give an indication that, oh, his next card he's going to draw is a land, although that would be highly unlikely unless you're intentionally cheating that would happen. The borderless art here still preferred. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking for fetch lands, and I've now wasted time talking about this. If there was never any other kind of special lands, this would be fine. But yeah, unfortunately that's not the case. Let's see. Is this really only just going to show me basic lands? No, it just puts all the basic lands up front, which honestly it should probably put all the basic lands at the bottom. So let's see if we can find anything here that's actually a fetch land. That is not a land, but apparently it summons a legendary land. It might be that Arena just does not have any of the fetch lands in it. They may have stopped making those. In favor of other things. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything that I would call a fetch land. And I guess I need to go look up what that is. Because I've heard it talked about, certainly, but I don't really know. Seems like all the non-basic lands either make you pay 2 life and give you 2 options, or they come into the field tapped. Or they let you scry, or they have you gain life. All things that seem reasonable enough. They seem reasonably balanced. Maybe the fetch lands aren't actually lands. That could be it. Yeah, I'm generally gonna have to say I don't see what anything could be. Call the fetch land in this. Except for that and that one. These are the only 2 things that actually have you search your library for basic land and put them in the battlefield tapped. Like, and having these on the field kind of makes sense. It's a little weird that these cards are named differently considering how they are the same effect or similar effects. I think this one's even better because if you have 4 more lands, it untaps the land that you just put on the field. This one taps only. So I probably should have both of these in my decks. Just replace 8 of every card I could play to reduce the number of cards in the field, in the deck that are that I might draw. And then you have like things of Field of Ruin that doesn't really work. Let's see. I feel like we might be seeing some cards from a new expansion. Is that possible? Nope. We're still up to just Theros Beyond Death. Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry for the side journey right at the beginning of the stream. Let's play this and see what happens. Who do we want to play as? I want to, I guess, do this, and we'll just play both of them, and then we're gonna do a draft. So it's gonna be kind of a long stream today, and it's not even like we have a ton of news. I can sum up the accountability section of today's stream as F all, because that's basically what happened. I watched the Netflix series Daybreak, which has some major tonal writing issues in my opinion. At times it seems decent enough, as the idea of converting a comic book to a TV series, and the comic book being a virus kills all the adults or turns them into things like zombies, but not quite zombies because they can't bite you and turn you into zombies. And then all the teenager kids devolve into they devolve into, let's see, this would enter the battlefield tapped. I don't think I want to do that yet. This just gives me more mana. Interesting, which I guess I could have used on this instead. Let's see. I guess I have to pay 2 life so I can play something. Enchantment spells cost 1 less to cast. Well, that did something to him. What does waste not do? Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black black creature. So they want me to discard a card. Guess we get rid of another Banishing Light, or yeah, that's probably the right move. Alright, so this guy basically is going to get buffed. Super buffed. Wow. Gets +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield. Which, this is an enchantment, and this is an enchantment. So, it's getting +4/4 from a base 2/2. Interesting. Yeah. So, the problem with Daybreak is, it is ignored until way late in the story why there aren't very many younger kids in the story. You have to just kind of assume that they either died or were for one reason or another, and in this post-apocalypse, and it's all about these cliques forming into gangs, and it's supposed to be comedic and lighthearted because you don't want it to get too dark and depressing, but sometimes it kind of does imply it's a lot more dark and depressing than there kind of really is. Let's see. Well, I have no problem in getting a lifelink, so but that's not really the main problem with the tonal shifts. The main problem is it does at times just go super woke that I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a parody. Like they're talking about how in flashbacks, which there's a ton of flashbacks in it, which seems to be fine, but they're talking about in the school in the flashbacks how people have peanut allergies and thus it's a nut-free environment, and they're having gender neutral prom queen and kings, things like that. The very first episode they have like one guy self-identifying as a unicorn, and they don't play it off enough as a joke that it feels like a joke, and that seems to be the problem overall. Like, if I was a little bit more ignorant on the fact that there are SJWs out there that will legitimately to your face say, oh, it's totally acceptable and reasonable that a high school kid would be able to identify as a unicorn, and you almost get that maybe it's supposed to be a... So I got that sack. I don't know what that sack did. Like, where is the place where you can get items? Like, it would either be packs or it would be in your collection, and I don't know how it could be in my collection if it's not card. So then I guess maybe it's in the profile. I was thinking, how did I get Puppet Jace? I didn't. It's locked. But then some of the other characters and pets are not even showing because I guess you can't buy them anymore, like the Cerebros. So it's not there. It didn't magically unlock something. So what did this thing give me? Didn't give me historic anthology cards. Haver Sack of Favor. Have we entered a realm where they're just giving us nothing and pretending like it's something. Like, doesn't feel like they gave me a significant amount of wild cards, and they would have animated that. Let's go. Historic Anthology 2. Yeah, we have none of those. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. To me, it seems like that gave me absolutely nothing. And it doesn't seem like I'm going to get anything for winning or playing a second time. But I do want to play the deck. Like, you might as well. You might as well try to get as much variety around there. So, yeah, there was particularly, like, one episode that felt like a completely different writer wrote one of the episodes of Daybreak. There's one character, very major character, who feels like they are weirdly written in a way that none of their actual personality is discernible, I guess is the right way to do it. Like, this character seems to almost be like a android type character that would just adapt to the people around him. Maybe not android, maybe a better way to say it is a almost empathic type creature that just shows you what you want to see, and has no real personality. And they even try to play on that and write a story that makes sense, but it doesn't come off as well written enough that makes sense. Let's see. So, do I want to discard a card? Enter tapped, and we'll just do this. And I could activate this. To create zombies. I should do that next turn. So yeah, there's a whole middle section where Daybreak just doesn't feel like the show you wanted, or I wanted, and it doesn't feel like the show that they first promised. They're just putting in a lot of SJW stuff, and it's just so obnoxious and blatant. It's basically as if they were speaking a different language, and this is coming from somebody who has no problem watching a lot of different language shows and understanding and following the plot on those. And yeah, it kind of just ends on a cliffhanger for a second series. There's an episode that is a super long, super awkward, like, sex scene where it feels like the actress didn't want to show any nudity, or the guy, I guess, didn't either, and so they go for a really long time making sure they show absolutely nothing, and it doesn't really add anything. And like, after 4 or 5 minutes of the first of three attempts at sex, I guess is the best way to put it, I was just like, I'm just gonna fast forward this because it's not adding anything to the story. Right. Do I really want to destroy something? Destroy target creature. Guess we can do that. But I kind of needed to do this. But yeah, it's the first one is like an awkward too long sex scene, and then there's a little bit of conversation, and then there is a second awkward too long sex scene, and then or attempted sex, and then there's like a third. It feels like the entire episode was written in such a way that they thought they were just gonna have the two actors naked and just have a full episode set to them having an entire episode of a sex scene, and then one of the actors came back and said, no, I'm not doing any nudity at all. And the fact that there was no communication there, or there's nothing around that, again, based on a comic book, so perhaps there was a whole issue in the comic book that coincides with that, and so perhaps there is some more element there that would explain why that would have been done, but otherwise I have no idea, and I would have cut it down anyways. Yeah, it definitely is a comic book to TV / movie translation that does not work, and almost certainly would never work. Scott Pilgrim is kind of the same thing. Like, the Scott Pilgrim movie is alright, but it's honestly, I don't think anywhere as good as the comic book, and it really wasn't a good choice as far as what you would want to bring to the movie theaters. It really is a good indication of just how many comic books would not really work. Tap 3 zombies. Nah, let's not do that. And it really does ask the question about why specifically so many comic books are trying to be turned into movies and TV, in the fact that it just kind of doesn't work. Like, and a lot of them definitely wouldn't work, but a lot of them, yeah, there aren't a lot of comic books that are just stories. It would make a lot more sense if books were being converted to movies and TV way more often. Even just like generic, simplistic things that barely sold, but since you have that visual element, the only difference between a comic book and a TV or film is that you are adding audio and you're adding motion, which takes away from the comic book style. That's why Lock and Key, while it's a fine show, feels and looks nothing like what a Google image search of the Lock and Key comic books look like. So they really are just taking the story idea and making their own thing with it. There's a character in Daybreak called Eli, who's almost certainly a self-insertion character from the creator of the show, and they make him out like he's a really good guy at one point, when he's absolutely not been acting as a really good guy in any way up until that point. see. Okay, so now I need this guy to deal damage to a player to make him discard a card. Yeah, unfortunately I gave it a college try moving on to get the audio options to work. Nothing happened there. And we have a new OBS version running, which hopefully nothing changes there. New features and things like that are great, but there's really not a lot that I want to do with the OBS that I haven't already kind of figured out how to do. So if they make things a little bit easier, even if OBS did make things a little bit easier, they're not really gonna change my workflow much, because OBS is pretty easy as long as it doesn't mess up. It really does just boil down to it's got to not screw up. Do we want to let that do the damage, or do we have to defend? Feel like there was something here. Something here I should be able to do more of, and it doesn't seem like I can really do that. Well, we definitely want to attack with this, and then I guess we want to just defend with everything else. That's a new card to me. Well, I'm doomed. Totally doomed. I also watched the Invader Zim movie, Enter the Florbus. It felt like it was a attempt to bring back Invader Zim with the voice actors and the animators. Long since forgotten how to do Invader Zim, really. And so it felt like some of the characters didn't feel like the characters I recognized. They seemed to, like, the sister seemed to be wearing a blue shirt when I'm fairly certain she was wearing like a black shirt, and maybe there was something in a late season or something that addresses that. But each player sacrifices 2 creatures. Not yet. So yeah, I have it just felt average at best, I guess is the right way to say that. And I don't know if there's, I feel like Invader Zim as a cartoon series on Nickelodeon ended kind of fine, so there was kind of no reason to go back and add more. I don't think that its unique kind of bizarre comedy style could be redone and improve on it or change it in any way. So it just kind of felt like a cash-in. Also, too, very possible that I am just older now and thus no longer super in that mindset of being able to enjoy Invader Zim. Sometimes you just can't go back to the things you're nostalgic for and see them in the same light. Yep, we didn't get a second second favor, which we wouldn't because we didn't even win, but yeah, I guess that's as much as I'm willing to do there. There's a lot of cards here. Did we play any of these cards? No. So I'm confused. Really, we played this. And that seems like pretty much the only card that I recognize, and we played this. Waste Not. Okay. So, in this experience, we played what seems like 2 of 25 historic anthology cards amongst 2 decks to get a Haversack of Favor, which probably isn't going to give us anything of any value ever. Now, we are a little short on gold, but we still need to do a rank draft, and so let's just do that. And yeah, this is still just going to be rare drafting. Nothing super special there. And, yep. Let's see. I have to move my mouse. Alright, this is a 4.5, which we have 2 of. And is there anything we have 0 of that would make sense? We have 0 of this land. There we go. We'll take a land. Lands are probably more valuable than you think. Here, we're just going to take another land. Why not? Alright, now let's get a little bit more serious. We've got green, probably, and red or blue. What can we do here that would get us cards and still be of a reasonable thing? Yeah, we're just gonna take that, I guess. Alright. This is white, and we just grab the white black. We don't have any copies of that, so we'll take that. We don't have any copies of that, we'll take that. This is just gonna be a terrible experience, right? We're just gonna take a bunch of cards we can't use and don't have copies of. And so we are just gonna rare draft to the max. Don't have that. Don't have that. Like, I will be super surprised if we don't get just 3 losses immediately. Alright, seems like we're going blue. So I have one of these, and one of these. And then 2 or 3 of the rest of these. So I'll take this blue. And then I don't have any of those. Alright, we have 2, 2, and 2 here. So I'll take a white. Then we have 2, 2, and 1 here. So are we just going to keep it balanced, or we're going to try to stick with white cards? I don't have any of those. And we have to take that. And then we could take another land, but we don't have any of that at all, so just going to go with all the zeros. We don't have that. Let's see. Don't have that or that. Let's see, we don't have that. We don't have that. Don't have that one. So, obviously, very little logic being put in here. If this somehow stumbles me into success, then Magic is BS in general. And maybe it is. I did learn that it seems to be consistently $15 to do a Friday night draft at a local local game store. $15 for 3 draft packs is probably still a decent price, and seems like you probably can only do 1 draft per evening because it seems to take so long. But yeah, that's still, I think, is the best way to get cards in general. It's not likely to get you the best cards, but it's going to start you down a path of having something that you can actually play with. It isn't instantaneously in the middle of all the self-isolating that's going on right now. You probably would be better off just ordering online a pre-made deck of some sort and going down that path and doing your research to figure out which pre-made decks you would want. Get a few of those. So we don't have this, so we'll take it. But yeah, if people weren't being told to self-isolate, a Friday night draft would be the best solution to get cards. I guess now everybody might just be forced to play either Magic Online or Magic Arena. Take your pick on whether you want to play the new standard cards or whether you want to play the older cards that might be more interesting and might last you longer. There still is a pretty decent argument to play Magic Online and not have to get into free-to-play elements and actually buying cards. I assume on Magic Online, I could be wrong about this, you just tell it what cards you want to play with and you play. If not, I imagine there's some site similar to Magic Online that works that way, where you don't have to actually prove ownership or own the cards in reality. I'm gonna just have a ton of new cards at the end of this. Like, I really haven't been opening any Ravnica Allegiance packs, so it's not really surprising that there's so many cards I have that I just own 0 of. What are we even on the split here? We're kind of just doing 5 colored cards. So then I guess it just comes down to getting cards that are the best highly rated if it's not running into things that I don't have, that I have 0 of. But as I've been able to talk here and not even mention too much the cards that I'm picking, that just really goes to show how many of these picks have I been able to do where it really was just, I know I have 0, so I want to get at least 1. Yeah. So now the challenge is to take this deck and make anything out of it, because we've got basically nothing in here. So target creature gets +2/+2 turn, gets death touch until the end of the turn if you have black. Creatures +1 and scry. Creature, discard a card. Spectate cost. 2 damage to the creature. Exile it. We Might want that. Adapt on a green. Destroy a target creature with flying. We probably don't want that. Which probably means we don't want greens. We could still play this without green. This buffs another creature. This one just has you draw a card. Interesting. This one has Riot. This has Riot and Trample. Alright. That gets us down to 52 cards. And then we need to decide if we want to get rid of black, white, or red or blue. Playing a 4-color card is probably not a smart move. Let's see. That's kind of a crazy and expensive card, so let's get rid of that. Let's see. This one is probably not really worth playing. That's probably not worth playing. Which then if we're not going to play red cards, we could get rid of that. And that. And then let's see how this boils down. Yeah, that gets it right down to 41. So then we are at black, white, and blue. And so anything that gives me red, green is not needed. And green, blue being tapped is not needed. Alright. So this is a really expensive card. This is a really expensive card. Is there anything here that is just really useful or useless? That's what we're actually looking for, is useless cards. Well thought. Puts it into the graveyard. -4, -0. You know what? I think we'll just leave it here. Like, I don't think that there's as much of a reason. Like, they say always play with 40 cards, but let's just play with 41. Like, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that, so we'll just play with 41 cards. Max is on the chat. He says, hi there, hey there. Hey Max. I guess I also, while I was avoiding doing any real work for my YouTube channel, I watched the entirety of a Netflix series called The Order, it's a fine series. It ends a little rough, I would say, lining itself up to either be something completely different in the next season, if it gets the next season, or do exactly the same thing or something extremely similar to the same thing in the next season, if it gets another season. So it really just hits the reset button. The order feels a lot like if you were going to have a different take on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's alright. It's not amazing. Like, but I would say, yeah, it's a fine thing to watch. It also probably, if it's being funded by Netflix in any way, probably won't run into the problem of something like Supernatural that just goes on and on forever. Which they're wrapping up Supernatural, which is finally. Alright, do we want to make him do that, or do we want him to put a creature on the field? Max X asks what's up. Basically nothing. Like nothing really is up with me. I ordered groceries, and I can tell you in my area, in my instance, I don't know if this is an average experience, but it felt like at least 15% of the groceries I ordered could not be fulfilled at all, and another 25% of the groceries were either the wrong brand, the wrong size, or the wrong flavor. And particularly in ordering groceries, like all toilet paper, toiletry stuff was not even allowed, and a lot of the pharmacy stuff was just not allowed. Specifically, like Band-Aids were not allowed to be ordered. So yeah, it's crazy what's going on as far as people overbuying things. I think a major issue in the United States that probably is not so much the case in a lot of other countries is people in the United States have just been trained through fast food and capitalism in general to not cook for themselves and not have a stocked pantry or a stocked refrigerator. So once people started getting word and realizing, and not even just people hoarding and buying tons of toilet paper, once people just realized that they weren't going to be able to go to McDonald's every day, which for some people unfortunately is their terrible diet, people started having to actually buy food, and that really indicates that there was never enough of a supply line and enough of a product on the shelves to actually feed people once they have to actually fend for themselves and cook their own foods. Let's see what do we want to get rid of. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will just be temporary in general, the shortages, and a week from now the grocery stores will be stocked back up. And particularly, I do keep usually quite a lot of food in my house and pantry. I just usually still end up having to buy a delivery for a month's worth of food a month at a time, and timing just lined up badly there. So yeah, I'm not going to starve to death or anything, but there definitely are some meals I wanted to cook that, like, I couldn't even get red beans. I I was going to make red beans and rice Cajun style dish, and they didn't have red beans. The rice I got was the wrong kind. They substituted it for a completely different type of rice. It probably would still work, like rice is rice, but certainly some weirdness in that. Let's see if I did this. Can I then do that? Let's actually pass and wait until see if he's gonna attack. Interesting. He just chose not to attack. Interesting though. And it seems like maybe I made a mistake in ordering and I didn't get any meat, or maybe they were completely out of ground beef, which I don't know. Maybe that is going to be a case where the employees of grocery stores aren't going to have like their butchery meat sections or their bakery sections staffed. They may just pull all of their staff off of that to deal with just making sure stock is on the shelves. Weirdly, as we're entering to the summer, it seems like some summer items are like summer patio furniture and things are going on sale, probably because they expect them not to sell very well. Yeah, there's kind of nothing that I need to do here. Just play the game. Electronics, for a weird way, seemed like if it was in stock, some electronic things were going on sale, whereas other things like the Wii Fit Adventure in particular is getting very scarce. I imagine exercise equipment, if you ever thought about buying some and think like you're actually going to use it, now would be a great time to buy some, just so that you don't have an incredibly sedentary life. There is that danger individually from people who go from highly active lives to being stuck in their house and being very incapable of being as active as they used to. That being said, you really don't need too much exercise equipment to exercise. Like, you can walk in place, you can do sit-ups, you can do push-ups, you can do quite a lot of things with absolutely no equipment, or at least very little equipment, maybe floor mats. So yeah, some things seem like they're going on sale, although like ordering things from Amazon might get weird. Ordering things and buying things in general, if this theoretical check to every United States citizen actually happened, things might get weird. It would be an interesting prover between what economists or armchair economists, of which I have to include myself, often say if you gave everybody $1,000, then the cost of bread would just go up by $1,000. So that's what they're proposing to do, is literally give, I imagine, every tax filer $1,000. So if this was the first year you ever filed taxes, you probably are going to have a harder time getting the money. And if you're a kid, I imagine they're not planning on sending children based off social security numbers or something $1,000 check individually. But yeah, having mad cash and propping up consumerism, though, seems to be an ineffective and ridiculous way of addressing the underlying issue of uncertainty in the economy, and the fact that there needs to just be better healthcare. What people should do is, I would suspect, if you already have a forever house, if you have the house you plan on living in forever, and you have a decent car, and there's no other weird reason why you would need a business loan, but you also have a decent amount of debt, I would say if you get a $1,000 check, give that $1,000 check over to a bankruptcy lawyer and declare bankruptcy. It'll ruin your credit, certainly, but the economy and getting lending in general probably won't be very good for the next few years anyways. And I would even expand this to the idea of, even though bankruptcy cannot legally in the United States clear student loans, maybe if we just all got into a revolution and just stopped paying the student loans, you're never going to have a better time in which debt collectors are going to be overwhelmed and understaffed. So the idea, if just everybody just said, screw it, I'm just not going to pay my student loans, and they can try and harass me if they want, and I can dodge their phone numbers, like that, they may sue you, but the courts will probably be backed up if everybody did that. And you can make a sympathetic story there, particularly if you're getting laid off because of the coronavirus, which people are. So yeah, you could go really crazy there. But even if you kept on paying student loans and just went bankrupt on all the other debt, you'd have more money to pay the student loans. And a deep, long-lasting economic perspective and change would probably be better for society in the long run. Like maintaining the idea that people should just work 40 hours plus 40 to 60 hours a week at low wages to get money to spend on things that they don't really need is not something that's infinitely viable. It's time to get back to basics and just buy the things you need and work a little bit less and not work yourself to death. And definitely hope that somebody somewhere will address the incredible unfairness of the student loan situation, which Joe Biden in part voted for, and then lied directly on stage saying he didn't vote for. So yeah, that would be the thing that happened. If you're not going to do that, I would say just save the $1,000. Like, save it for at least a year in case things are more expensive. Have that be, I mean, that is not going to be a 6-month emergency fund, but it could be the beginning of an emergency fund, and it would be something. I would also argue, if you are incurring medical costs during this time, I maybe keep it just down to the minimum payments. If you really are getting so much debt, which you probably are if you're getting any medical costs, to again think about going bankrupt once all is said and done. But handing $1,000 over to anybody in the medical field, whether it's insurers or doctors or drug companies, is not something that I would want to see anybody do. Doctors in particular would be very well suited if they just all got together and said, hey, we're just not going to pay our student loans. And I haven't been looking at the chat, but Max says, tomorrow's Doom Eternal's release. I'm so happy it's here. What do you think? And then he goes, what was my question, sent or not? If you don't see my question, I asked what do you think about Doom Eternal and its release? And then he goes, hey Rydo, if you don't know me, I'm the friend who added you on Steam. Yeah, sorry, I haven't been really looking at Doom Eternal. I kind of just don't care about. I've seen people comment, and I think it's mostly been Max like reminding me, to the point where you kind of sound like you work for id Software and you're promoting the game to me. Like, yeah, it sounds like a sales pitch more than anything, not to be rude. I'm not super interested in playing it anytime soon. I heard it was more difficult than the original game, which it's not really something I'm looking for. But also it's just going to be Doom, more Doom, and the first Doom reboot game was fine. I heard that they're adding some kind of fast travel elements and a lot more collectibles in it, but I'm not planning on playing the multiplayer, so it's something that I don't feel I need to be super hyped about right now. I'll get around to it maybe in a year or two, or just whenever. I've got plenty of other games to play, and the amount of time I'm spending right now playing games, even if I was to get it on day one release, it would be at least April before any footage came out, because I'm just not scheduling anything like that, and I have no interest in trying to live stream critical reviews. I heavily suspect that when people do give critical reviews of Doom Eternal, they're going to say it's improved and it's still a good game. Doom 2016 was a good game, but I don't think that there's going to be too much to it otherwise, because it is a game that really doesn't care about its story. So we're not going to have a deep, enthralling backstory or love story with Doom Guy. So it will almost certainly be in the exact same position at the beginning of the game as it is at the end of the game. There's not going to be any revelations or evolutions. It's just going to be you kill a bunch of demons, and then it's not really going to affect anything, and then they'll leave it open for a Doom 3. I would say the Halo series is probably a little bit better about moving a storyline forward, but even the Halo series really doesn't change anything. You're still fighting people and shooting people. But yeah, the gameplay will improve, and as we see the running and gunning with 3D platform, first-person platforming also being an element, these will be ideas and concepts that other standard 3D first-person shooter games take in and learn lessons from, and we'll see that ever increasing incremental improvement on the highly popular genres of first-person shooters. So on the other hand, there also is a decent argument that right now a lot of people are doing first-person shooting, but they're doing something more like a battle royale or a Fortnite, and as that's the fad right now, I think a lot of lessons will be taken from those games until they stop being popular, and then we'll swing back to first-person shooters. Almost certainly, they're just too easy to make to think that we won't always have some first-person shooter games coming out every year. Let's see. Yeah, discard a card and give me 3 life. Why not? It would be very weird if first-person shooters completely fell out of favor. I need to attack here, don't I? So let's do that for sure. And this one has vigilance, so we can do that. And then do I want to do this? Is there anything I could really block? Nah, we'll just attack with all of that. Untap another creature I control. Interesting. Interesting. So, yeah. Max said, nah, I'm not working for them, just happy. When did you came up with the name, that name, Rydo? Yeah, I've told the story a couple times, but I don't tell it a lot. I was playing with a friend, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, back when Heroes of Might and Magic 3 was a relatively new game. So in the early 90s, late 80s, we were playing Heroes of Might and Magic, which Heroes of Might and Magic is an incredibly long game to play. And so I was just joking around, and I decided you have to type in a name, or yeah, you have to type in the name of your character in Heroes of Might and Magic, and I was joking around, and I just managed to hit a bunch of random letters. So literally I just randomly smashed my hand against the keyboard and hit random letters. So that was funny enough, and I was just expanding on that and being bombastic about the mighty King Rydo is going to take you down, things like that, and it worked. It was as good of a name as anything else, and actually very lucky name in my opinion to have just kind of run into, because so many people use gamer tags, and this was way before gamer tags, that are really not unique. There's very little thought put into them, so you get a lot of people that have gamer tags that are like Michigan fan 420 or something like that. They've got their favorite comic book, like Superman fan 69, things like that, and then there's just a huge amount of services that require a number, and so of course, since most of these people are going to be picking a gamer tag when they're relatively young, it's a lot of 420s and 69s, or a lot of them are going to be given random numbers at the end, and they just kind of stick with whatever they're going to stick with. Or you run into people that use their exact name in their gamer tag, which is not very safe and secure to do. Alright, let's go ahead and attack with all. That way this death touch creature that's indestructible can't do anything to me. Well, I thought it couldn't do anything to me. So yeah, I kind of lucked into it and then just started using it for every other instance. It was an interesting enough default gamer tag to use. And then when I decided I was going to make a YouTube channel, it totally makes sense that one wouldn't want to give out their information, at least initially, probably never, on to the entire internet, as big and impactful as it has been. So yeah, I didn't, and all the games I was going to be playing was still using that name. So yeah, that's the somewhat interesting. They fixed the discard issue, thank goodness. Let's see. Let's see. Let's just get rid of those two cards. Well, they didn't quite fix it, but it's that works better. At least you could accidentally click the second card and discard something, but otherwise you're fine. So yeah, I could only encourage people to smash their hands against the keyboard until they see something they like, or just go to a randomizer that would randomize characters, numbers, and symbols, being careful on the symbols, to basically only use, I would say, the symbols above the numbers. Like, I don't think there's anything that would be too dangerous in using those symbols in anything. There was a Windows bug at one point where if you use the hashtag, for instance, as your username in Windows, you could never change that name or delete it, which is insane, certainly. But it seems to be the case that happened. But yeah, just random names. Because if you base it off something that you love, if you start at age 12 Superman fan, 420, you're gonna be age 40 at some point, still using that account. Hopefully, you don't want to lose your account, or most accounts let you change your name anyways, but some still don't. But you're probably not gonna be a huge fan of that name later on. So by having something unique, something that you can hold the definition of, you can do a lot more. Like if tomorrow I decided I wanted to put a more interesting backstory on Rydo as a name, I could do it, since there's no baggage around it. Let's see. Let's just skip both of those cards. I can't believe I'm doing as well as I am, frankly, on this draft, considering how I just grabbed cards I didn't have. I was just completely 100% rare drafting. Why did that not work? Adapt to. What is stopping me? What in the world is going on? Like, I don't know why it was limiting me to 2 counters there. Did I rank up? Oh my goodness, we're gonna be silver tier on a draft. Sorry, I'm not really looking at the chat as much as I should, considering how I'm just playing here. Just focusing. Yeah. Max said, yeah, I am just the fiend, not friend. Fiend is like a bad dude. I can message you right now if you want. I don't have any reason why I would want messages either inside of Steam. Like, I don't ever use Steam messaging. You may have tried to message me there and I may have seen it, but then I didn't respond. And I have no interest in anybody messaging me through Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering Arena. Comments you put on YouTube promote my videos so other people will see it. So I ask that everybody keep their comments on the YouTube chat, and that's pretty much the only place I'm gonna look to. So take that for what it is. I always appreciate people commenting, even if I am kind of being slow it does kind of feel like a Sleepy Wednesday. We do have a decent amount of news. So we should start covering that. Yeah. I would say even naming yourself the Fiend, though, there definitely were points in my life where I felt more like a Fiend type character. Then there were other points in my life where I felt like more of a nice guy kind of character. So even something like that, I like. And sometimes when I'm playing, one way, being called the Fiend might be different than if I'm playing other ways, because I want to be open to be the good guy. And then you might be playing an online game and you want to put on one persona versus a different persona. I don't think too many people would immediately kick you from an online server if you had the name the Fiend. I don't think people particularly care that much, but it might influence people subconsciously. And I generally just like the idea of more creativity. People being creative. Let's go ahead and attack since this has death touch. Lego 40 minutes ago said that they're closing all their stores in all countries except China, which that is an odd exception, certainly, until at least March 27th. Which, if that decreases the cost of Lego from Lego themselves, if they started doing some sales online, that would be amazing. But I suspect that isn't. Here's another one of these cards that uses gate lands, but I don't have any gate lands. So putting that on the field is just going to be for just 1/3 attack. So yeah, let's start covering the news, because between the event and this draft, we may spend the majority of today's stream, if not all the stream. Still got the audio. -2, -1 until the end of the turn. Alright, so Komatsu has an article here. Seabed for the Switch limited print physical edition announced. I don't know what Seabed is, but if I was to guess, it looks like it's a visual novel. Let's see if it's tagged as a visual novel. Seems like it's a couple girls swimming. Interesting. It might be a Yuri tale, lesbian type story from the looks of the art. I was also playing a cell phone game called Altered Ego. Got a little bit bored, so I installed it. It's a self-evaluation, psychological self-discovery clicker, and I played a little bit of it. I haven't gotten very far. I don't know how far I really want to go with it, or it does seem like it has a end, and it seems like, if I was to guess, the end might be fairly short, so you can loop and go through it many times, which was which seems interesting. It kind of asks you questions and tries to act like it can psychologically diagnose or evaluate you outside of something that a real therapist could do, which it obviously can't. It can just basically do personality tests. Next we have a game on Steam called Moonlight Mansion. This is tagged as a free-to-play game. It looks like a horror game with candles and lighting, and if any of these would load, I would say it's a little bit dark screenshot syndrome, but I wouldn't say it looks terrible. I think this might be a VR split screen, like they couldn't make the image one, or it's a co-op game. I guess maybe it's a co-op game. It's going to be particularly difficult to have a co-op or player versus player game. It's free. Is it made by students, perhaps? Yeah, it's a student game. That's what I thought. Like the idea of having a co-op or split screen, what do they label it as? A shared screen, split screen, co-op. Having a horror game around that is kind of a dumb idea. But the art doesn't look bad, and I love showing off student projects. I managed to lose there. I don't know what I did to lose, but I can't really complain too much. Be nice if we made it to 7 wins. This will probably be the last draft we do for this expansion, and then after the new mastery comes out, we'll probably get back to drafting. This is too much land, even though we're short on land usually. Let's see. Max says, I tried to give you watches, but it doesn't work like that. XD, I tried watching on my PC too. I have no idea how it works. YouTube does have some kind of some mitigation for that stuff, and they will reduce the count, but their software is so buggy and untrustworthy, I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard stories that in the early days, a lot of like really big YouTubers literally just bought views from like people in India and China, just pretending like they're watching, and using like VPNs to fake different IP addresses, and YouTube will claim that they've completely eradicated and fixed all those problems. It's probably not true, but also I also don't want to get my channel banned because of it, so I don't encourage anybody to pull any shenanigans like that. The best thing you could do is ask friends to subscribe to my channel. Mostly I just need subscribers more than even views. Like if I could get back to 1,000 subscribers, I could be back to making probably about 7 cents a week, which is what I was making back before they pulled the rug out from under all small-time YouTubers. I was getting about 7 cents a week on views, because I have quite a lot of old videos that still get quite a lot of views. So yeah, 7 cents a week is not anything you can live off of, certainly, but it is a nice little attaboy to feel like you're moving in the right direction. Ideally, I'd like to get 10 to 100,000 subscribers, and at that point I think I'd have enough momentum where I would get enough views to get, heck, if I could get between $1,200 a month and $2,000 or $3,000 a month, I would be super excited by that. That's like a living wage to actually pay bills and actually have a reasonable career with it. But that would be a long journey. Mostly I'm just hoping the snowball effect would happen, and I have seen elements of snowball effects where I do sometimes just get a lot more views than it feels like I used to, and sometimes I have really good weeks and people watch more, but there are also sometimes where it's just kind of dead. And yeah, I know my content isn't for everybody, and my content's not that great, so I'm not out here thinking I'm going to be the next PewDiePie with millions and millions of subscribers. But yeah, just a nice living wage, something that at the end of the day I could hit a retirement age and still get enough money from views of my old videos, which are kind of viewable at any point when since I'm talking about old games a lot of times anyways. But if I could get enough to just retire off that would be great. But yeah, actual views and actual watch time and stuff like that isn't even really a concern. It's getting people to subscribe. If you've told all your friends and family to subscribe to me, go to the library and go see who logged in last into Google and subscribe to my channel on random public computers. That's about it. You could, in theory, go to like a public computer like at the library and pull up my everything playlist and just hit play and just let that play forever, and that would get me some more watch time and more views, but it really wouldn't change too much. But yeah, I do have to say though, even though I'm not happy with the number of subscribers I am 100% happy with the quality of subscribers I have, because I don't have people that are trolls, really. I don't have super rude people that stick around and subscribe to my channel, and there's nobody coming to every single video just to say the same repetitive annoying thing. That's probably just because I'm so small more than anything else, but yeah, eventually I will hit a point where I can't respond to every comment, but I try to heart, and mostly I thumbs up every comment on my videos if I don't respond particularly directly to it, and I don't get more than 3 comments a day anyway, so that's definitely doable. But I could certainly see that becoming a situation where I'm spending 2 or 3 hours responding to comments. I could probably do that still, though. Like, there's plenty of time in my day when I'm not sitting in front of my computer, but I have my cell phone and I can respond to comments for an hour and a half a day. But yeah. And then you also have, as time goes by, you'll have fans that pop up and will chat for 6 months or so, and then they get busy or they get bored and they move on. I tend to repeat the same statements, particularly on the live streams, and say the same thing, and I'm not sure that all of my content is that evergreen, particularly with Magic. So people tend to come and go, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would hope that maybe they come back, but maybe they won't. There's definitely the same pattern I've done with other YouTubers too, where I've watched a bunch of YouTubers' videos and been super into them, and then after 2 or 3 years of it, I'm ready to move on. Let's see. Yeah. let's move on and cover more games. Next, we have a game on Steam called Monsters Mall, which I can't tell what it is. Is this a tower simulator game? Like this is tower sim with monsters, or is it some kind of clicker? Evolver Your Mall. That doesn't seem like that's English. Yeah, as best I can tell, this is an early access tower sim game for $8.49 English, Portuguese, Brazil, which honestly, when it's just English and Portuguese, Brazil, that is getting to be about as suspicious as far as whether it's good quality or not as a game that is English and Russian, or a game that's English and Chinese, or any combination of those three. Like, Brazilians are always, I guess a lot of Brazilians are hustling, I guess is the best way to put it, in kind of a negative way. So I don't think they've got any other opportunities for more legitimate, more honest work in Brazil, and that kind of is the same thing with China and Russia too, is there's just a lot of people that don't have opportunities to make an honest buck, so they have to try and make dishonest bucks by making low effort asset flip type games. Do I want to give a creature flying? I mean, I could. And then I could attack. +2/+2. And then attack with that. And then this will probably kill me. But it's probably going to lose anyways. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Bone Marrow, which is a 2048 game, it looks like. Yeah, it's 2048, but with some magical elements against an enemy. Interesting. That's a new spin on 2048, which we've seen back when that was popular. We saw hundreds upon hundreds of low effort clones. This deserves to be on the follow list. It's $2.79, so it's not expensive. It's English full audio and Russian full audio, which is maybe a little suspicious, but then they say they support a bunch of other languages. This deserves to be on the follow list. Like, a new evolution in the idea of making 2048 games. Can I block? I mean, I can. It's gonna cost me. Let's see. This is from a couple days ago, so this article's not super useful. Nintendo announces an indie worldwide showcase for tomorrow. This was done on the 16th, and I have a whole bunch of articles on what they announced. A lot more things coming to video games. I mentioned one comic book that was giving out all volumes 1 through 6 of the adult comic Sunstone, and I'll just describe it as that this time. And the creator of that tweeted that they drop box links to that. Since then, there was some other comic book creators that put out comics and comic book publishers, but the listing was kind of interestingly not very good offers as far as comics that they're giving away, because it's not like an entire collection of the first volume of something. A lot of times it's maybe the first volume of a long-running series, or the first issue. Like Image Comics, I think, was just letting you read the first issue of all of their comics, which sounds good and sounds like you've got a lot to read there, but really it is just locking you into an advertisement. This is not really anything more than you would get on like a free comic book day type situation, where issue ones of series are either sold very cheaply or given away for free on free comic book day. So yeah, I didn't really see anything else that was great, and I would argue that if you're going to focus on reading stories, reading an entire book might be the right move right about now instead of a comic book, because you're not going to get a complete story and you're going to have more time. Even if you're a really slow, methodical reader in a comic book, it's going to take you maybe an hour to read 6 issues, like one trade paperback of a comic series. It would take you maybe 3 or 4 hours to read the entire run of certain comics, like 3 or 4 trade paperbacks. That's really not a lot of time wasted if you are just full of time. You're much better off playing video games. You're much better off getting Netflix and all of that, and just watching entire series of TV shows and movies. And if you wanted that deep dive, I would say work your way into reading a real book. This would be the point where I would put in an Audible advertisement if I was actually sponsored by Audible or anybody else. Ideally, I don't think I want to be sponsored by anybody. Like, if I was to become a bigger YouTuber, I think the selling out and putting that annoying baked in ad that is unskippable into every video for all eternity, it's just become something that I don't really want to do if I can avoid it. Ideally, I would have enough fans supporting me on Patreon at some point in the future where I could even turn off advertisements on YouTube and just say, screw YouTube, they don't get a cut. We'll instead get it all through Patreon. I'm having to discard cards because I can't play anything. And I can't play anything because I don't have enough planes or any other color. This sucks. So I guess get rid of that. Next game we have on Steam is called Isoland 3 Dust of the Universe, which looks like it is a puzzle-based kind of point-and-click adventure. It's rated positively. It's $2.39. It's got a bunch of language support. I guess what you could do here is look at this developer self-publisher and see if they published Isoland 1 and 2. It doesn't seem like they did. Weird. So then it comes down to maybe Isoland 1 and 2 is cell phone games, which this would be understandable if it was. So I'll put that on the fall list, and I would have to potentially particularly figure out how to play Isoland and see if that is something that is only available on some other platform. Finally. Let's see. Go ahead and resolve all of this. Game of Sutra has an article here. Deca Games acquires Dragon Veil following Backflip Studios closure. So, the free-to-play mobile game Dragon Veil. I don't think I recognize Dragon Veil, but it sounds like a kid's game if I was to guess. This guy's gonna attack me on one turn. He's gonna get a 1 or 2 turn kill. Game of Sutra has an article here. The streaming startup Jinvid secures $6 million in funding. Okay. Adding to the $27 million it secured back in November. So this will be an interesting maybe competitor to YouTube. It includes NTT Docomo Ventures and Samsung Ventures and Hoya as investors, and that would be like a Korean companies, I think. So, and I don't think so much a competitor to YouTube and Twitch, unfortunately, and that's what I'd really like to see, is more competitors to YouTube and Twitch, which there's some blockchain based streaming services out there that are trying to be competitors, but I don't know if anybody really is going to Library, LBRY, or BitChute, or several other services that are even lesser memorable. Even with a lot of people self-isolating, I'm not sure that that's going to push people to using new services online as much as it's going to push people to just continuously use the old services more and more. We've got this, I guess. But I'm almost certainly gonna die. Next, we have a game on Steam called Pity Pit, which looks like it's a mobile game, but at the very least I'll say they spread out the screen and did something with the sides instead of it just being basically nothing. Looks like it's a Dig Dug clone. It's $3.99, which is probably too expensive for a Dig Dug clone, and it's English only. Yeah, I don't see enough gameplay or enough visual polish here to justify putting that on the follow list. And we lost, predictably. But almost shockingly, we made 2 wins. For as bad as this deck was, and as much of this deck was just about getting a ton of cards that we didn't have, that was not a bad experience for a draft. And we get 200 gems and a Ravnica Allegiance. So, also, all the daily quests are already done. Also, we've got 2 packs to open. See, nothing new in Ravnica Allegiance as far as these cards, but these packs are not draft packs, but booster packs, which give fewer cards. That's new. I may also be getting a 2nd or 3rd copy of all of these cards, so. But then the Theros Beyond Death cards, almost certainly nothing new here. Maybe I'm getting 4th copies of some cards, but I doubt it. So what we would want to do is look at the collection here and see if we selected everything except for selected just Ravnica Allegiance. We can highlight where we are now with Ravnica Allegiance as far as new cards and just scroll past them and mark them. There's still a decent number that we only have 1 copy of, but then there are some that we now have like 4 copies of, as these cards are going to move out of standard play very, very quickly. So each one of these pages is 12 cards. So that's, I would say, about 40 new cards that we got unlocked. So if we were to just look at the not collected selection here, I could probably pretty easily also go show me all the commons and just decide to craft each of these. So I just had 1 of each. I don't know if it really is necessary to do that. It probably would help if we were going to do 1 more draft. I don't think we actually need to do 1 more draft, though. I think we need to save our money instead, because it is going to get a little bit harder. This is like a gate card. So far, though, I still have yet to find any card that actually makes great uses of the gate lands. And then if we were to go from common to uncommon cards, I definitely am sitting on enough cards that I could do this and have all the common and uncommons. Of course, then it would get really crazy since we have 22 rares to try and craft each of the rare cards in a set that's about to go out of standard play. And then it would just be absolute insanity to craft the remaining cards that we don't have, most of which of these are planeswalkers. I'm not sure if we're gonna get a lot more planeswalkers or what's gonna happen specifically in the next couple of expansions with planeswalkers. Meanwhile, if we just look at the Theros Beyond Death cards, we have 4 of those now and 3 of those, and that's it. And everything else was duplicate. Didn't even get anything new. And we could look at what we're missing from Theros Beyond Death. It's not a ton of stuff, but they are all rares and uncommons. So yeah, it would take about 16 of my 26 uncommon, 16 of my 22 rares to get 1 of each of those, and that's not worth it. So there probably is still a good reason to do Theros Beyond Death drafts also. Profile wise, we're at silver tier, so we will get 1 pack and 500 gold versus just getting 1 pack. Ideally, you would want to get the gold tier. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 13 days. We just don't have enough gold to do that. But we might get the platinum tier, and that would be a big jump from gold rewards 2 packs and 1,000 gold to 3 packs and 1,000 gold and 1 extra card style. And next bit of experience we get gives us the final pet and 2 2 skins, and then after that we have 200, and after several more levels we have another 200. So that should be over 3,000, just slightly 10 gems above 3,000, as long as we make it to rank 88 in the next 28 days, which there really should be no trouble with that. So now we just play standard ranked and try to burn through the news, and then that's going to be it for the stream today. We have a game on Steam here called Cruel World. It looks like a cartoony first-person shooter, player versus player game. It's tagged as an RPG. It's from a company called Siberian Game. Have they made anything else? They made a game called Magician of Fire in 2019 that seems to have no reviews either. So it's early access. Cruel World is. It's $11.99. It's English and Russian. I think that's a little too suspicious. This looks a little unpolished in the UI up here. Like, that's a little unpolished. They're selling it early access. I'm not seeing any enemies. I'm not seeing a lot of detail in the backgrounds. I'm not seeing any major different gameplay element. So, yeah. It's gotta jump around. And that's gonna cut out the audio. Sorry. Yep. At this point, I guess I have to resolve myself to never getting a response back from Magic as far as this audio issue. They're not going to respond. But whatever. It's annoying. Speaking of card games, though, they announced, or they let Criterion announce a new hero class in Hearthstone. Hearthstone from day one has had 9 hero classes. Each hero class were given a selection of cards that only that hero class could play, and a single hero ability that only that hero had. So them expanding in that direction is something I think they should have probably done from day one, or at least planned for. I'm not sure that having different hero classes really does anything useful, though, but having hero abilities certainly is a nice differentiator between Magic the Gathering, because you don't have weapons and you don't have hero abilities. In Magic, at best you have something like the like a Planeswalker that has something like a hero ability or weapon. Having a hero ability allows a player to do something each turn, where in Magic you very often just don't have anything to do. Hearthstone, being a more modern game, I think does a lot of things better than the way Magic plays, and it would be interesting if Magic threw out some other ideas and improvements. And I think that's pretty much what Commander is in a lot of ways, but even Commander doesn't shake up the narrative as much as I think I'd like it to. Does this have reach? So yeah, that's slightly interesting, but I have no desire to go back and play the Activision Blizzard owned game of Hearthstone, particularly since it's been several months and at least one expansion since I last played Hearthstone. I would feel a lot like I was starting over from scratch. And I wasn't doing the daily quest, so I certainly don't have a lot of gold. Nor do I want to put money in to buy gold or packs in Hearthstone. So there really is no going back. It's just going forward. The original guy in charge of Hearthstone, Ben Brode, made his own company called Second Dinner. He's got a contract with Marvel and Disney World, Disney in general, to make a Marvel collectible card game. I think it's going to be super popular when it comes out. And getting in on the early access beta of that, or day one, whatever I can get in on, is my goal. And my goal is to kind of focus on that and hope that just lasts a very long time and doesn't get abandoned. And try to be as far ahead progressively as far as having cards and such as possible while not spending too much money or any money in it. If it was really, really greedy, the Marvel game, then I may come back to Magic. Magic is always the backup plan, so like, notably, I did not come to Magic Arena when it was in early access and during that first year. Otherwise, I would have a lot more cards. For better or worse. Probably for the worse. Alright. We can still probably win this. Max says, I'm gonna go now. Great live stream, great videos. Keep it up. Okay, Max, thanks for watching. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Trials of Mana demo now available. Start the game now, and you can carry over your save data. So, if you want to play the third game in the Mana series, this is the 3D remake of the 1995 released, originally titled Seiken Densetsu 3. Is there a video attached to this? No, not so much. You don't hear a lot of people talking about Trials of Mana, as it were. I think that is in part because it was not released in the West originally. Either that or it's just not that good. Either one of those could be a factor. Alright, we've got to pull off a minor miracle here. Okay, I think we mostly have got it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage here. I could sacrifice that right now and do 1 damage. And I'd really just be like 1 short. So make it through 1 turn and we should be fine. Nope, not quite fine, but successful enough. Let's see. Monster Hunter World has been listed on the Japanese PlayStation Store for the PlayStation 4. I guess this is probably where it could be downloaded because it was available by disc before that point. I'm fairly certain. Like, so yeah, I have to assume that it's now available due to the PlayStation Store. Alright, first victory. And hopefully a long run of victories. I may be past the point where you can get extra pips when you win, too. Wouldn't be surprised. They said that the real Magic players did start appearing at the high gold, platinum level. So it is nice to see that it really has only been maybe 3 or 4 months since I started playing Magic that I was able to improve my decks enough to actually be competitive. I certainly wasn't being very competitive on day one. And I still probably have some problems with knowing what cards do. So there's probably more room for improvement. There's always room for improvement, but I think there's probably a lot of room for improvement. We have the game Fairy Tail now on Steam. Very anime because it's based on an anime. Looks like it is a all Magic users JRPG. I haven't seen the Fairy Tail anime, so I don't know how accurate any of that is. Seems like they're not afraid to put girls in scantily clad bikinis. So if that's something you're interested in, Fairy Tail may have something to interest you. I guess you put it on the fall list. It's not out yet. It comes out June 25th. We could see. There's nothing here as far as mature content, and it's rated T for teen with suggested themes. And it's full Japanese audio and English, French, and Chinese as far as subtitles. Alright. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Fairy Tail is one of the lesser liked animes out there. And in general, anime-based video games tend not to be as great as you would hope they would be, but it does seem like there's a chance, and being an anime fan in general often is just living on the hope of a chance. Like that's about all you get. Let's see, Open Critic has an article here. Do they? Nope. I somehow didn't actually click on an article. They do have articles here. GameStop has canceled their Animal Crossing and Doom Midnight launches, which GameStop in itself is getting yelled at for keeping employees working and not giving them any kind of cleaning supplies. GameStop's in general not a particularly clean store. A lot of kids running around, a lot of dirtiness. So the employees were already disgruntled with GameStop before the coronavirus happened. Now that they're being forced to work and being abused even more, that seems to have not really changed much. Now, inherently, I think there is just kind of this vested opinion too with GameStop, where GameStop came out and said that they were doing the right thing and tried to promote their store in this time of crisis, which is not a smart idea to really do any kind of business or attempt to do any kind of business that is promoting yourself based on the crisis. But people are somewhat getting away with some of that when they shouldn't be. They should be called out. All these companies are sending out emails, and I really don't need my bank telling me what to do in the coronavirus, but I guess they feel like they need to say something and look like they're being socially responsible. Unless my bank is gonna come out and say that they're cleaning all their ATMs or all ATMs everywhere, that's the only point where that would become useful, different information. But yeah, I don't think GameStop is doing anything, and if GameStop says anything, people are just gonna complain. GameStop in general needs to change their name because their name isn't worth the ink that it's printed with. They need to come out and say brand new name, brand new idea. We're gonna change all our stores. We're gonna close them down right about now, clean them out, change them out, rethink the inventory. We're not gonna be these dirty pawn shops for video games with annoying employees or annoyed employees often. We're gonna be something a lot closer to Toys R Us. Brightly lit, clean environments. Get rid of the carpets in all GameStops. Like, I've never seen a GameStop that didn't have carpet. Have nice, clean tile floors that you can mop quickly and easily, and instead of just vacuuming like with very little effort a carpet, which is what they're doing at most, is just vacuuming carpets. I imagine they haven't actually shampooed a carpet in a GameStop ever. But yeah, I'd get rid of the dark aesthetic. I'd be bright, light, and a happy place. Make it feel a lot more like a Toys R Us than what it has been or always felt like. And all of that's going to take money, and GameStop doesn't want to spend money, of course, but I don't think they're going to have much of a choice. This is going to be weird what I'm going to do, but I think this is the right move. Get back into the pattern I needed to be in. And I'm just not gonna play this card right now. Instead, I'm gonna just attack. Let's see, Gametsu has an article here for the PC, PS4, smartphones, and Switch. Genshin Impact has its opening cutscene, so we could kind of skip through this, see what this is. I need to set a custom zoom, but I don't think is a custom zoom in Chrome. Yeah, I haven't seen this before. It feels almost like you're playing a Kid Icarus game of some sort from that. Yeah, it's tagged as an RPG. That's pretty much all I can get from it. Is there a release date? It's due out in 2020 is all it says, unfortunately. Let's see. Yeah. 125 I guess is the right zoom for it. See, I need custom zooms for custom pages and custom sites, and I don't know how to do that on Chrome. I bet there's some kind of expansion or plug or extension that I could use. I just need to figure out what that is and spend some time on it, which I never have enough time. Now, when I play this on the opponent's turn, this has summoning sickness. Does it have summoning sickness at the next point? I guess it doesn't. Moving on, I'm losing momentum here. Acorn tennis game Dawn Swagger has been announced for the Switch. Utilizes interactive streaming engine GenVid. We heard about GenVid. This is a Acorn tennis game. I guess you do seem to be playing tennis with acorns. Is there a actual video here? There's a video here that seems to be more around GenVid than anything else. Yeah, it is straight up a tennis game with acorns. I don't know why you'd want to make that. Looking at this trailer, skipping around, none of the streaming video looks particularly great, and it is a bad statement on the level of power that the Switch has if they're trying to push video streaming services. Let's see. Oh, we'll do that. You're gonna exile my card. Might as well do that one more first. What? You played another card to exile another card? This sucks. He exiled 3 cards on me already. Let's go ahead and play this, I guess. And just end our turn. We can just pass. So here's TechRaptor's article. GameStop's coronavirus measures are sorely lacking. Lack of supplies arriving at locations. Like, yeah. They're gonna forcing people to use sick or vacation time. Which I doubt very many employees of GameStop even earn sick days or vacation time. Like, this is the problem of late stage capitalism or capitalism in general, is that the entirety of a pandemic happening all of a sudden becomes a huge economic crisis, when if everybody just had Medicare for all and just free healthcare, socialized medicine, as much as people in the United States have been trained to think that's a bad thing, if you just didn't have to worry about your health at least so much, you wouldn't be in a double bad situation where you're getting potentially no income, and you're accruing debt if you actually do need medical assistance. Of course, the bigger issue there, of course, is people shouldn't really have to work at all to meet their basic needs. Like, if you believe in the general idea that human beings deserve to be able to feed themselves and clothe themselves and have a roof over their head and take care of medical needs and things like that, like, working, ideally, in my perspective at least, should be this option that you do, or maybe you're conscripted into doing it. You have to work 10 hours a week just to give back to society at some job. You're just assigned a job, or you work to just fulfill yourself, or you work to get some bonus money. That this bonus money is not it's just for fun things, just for going out to eat at fancy restaurants, watching movies, things like that. If that were the world that people lived in, most people would be happier off. The only people that wouldn't be happier are the people that are exploiting the labor class. And yeah, you can't get any worse than GameStop in the video game world as far as people that exploit the labor class. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of people getting laid off, and there's talk of unemployment being as high as 20%, which the real number of unemployment in the United States is way higher than that, because there's a lot of people that fall off those unemployment rolls as the way they're calculated. There's a lot of people that just give up looking for jobs and just decide to be stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home husbands, just homeless on the street. The unemployment rolls are pretty much based solely on unemployment insurance, which runs out fairly quickly, 6 weeks to 6 months, I think, which it definitely can run out faster than you can find a job you actually want to work, or find a job in general. Let's see. I'm not sure I'm gonna win this, but if I get Bola Citadel, I could still turn this around. Here's a picture of a GameStop on there, and we can just like talk about what's going on. While this one is actually a rather large GameStop, I have not seen most stores this big. You have a lot of things pushing your eyes upward, and you have a dark ceiling and then a lighter tile set, when generally I would say you would want to paint it white, or maybe even do the popcorn on a ceiling like this to hide dust and cobwebs. I'd get rid of all of these signs that are up here promoting games, Batman games. These might be TVs, but either way, I don't want people looking up so much. I'd probably get rid of everything down this way. You want to bring their eyes down with a brightly lit, kind of dull, nothing to see here type view. And then I would say bring the eyes up. So maybe you get something like a brown or red tile. Get rid of the carpet, but bring the eyes up. This darkness doesn't help anybody, and it doesn't have anything that cleans. There's no great layout of this store, like very little much of a path to have people go back and forth, or anything that's just like a grocery store where there are aisles. All of these things probably should be on wheels so they could be easily rolled out of the way when mopping the floor. I'd probably try to have less emphasis of this big column. Again, coming back up to this GameStop that does not need to be up here. You want to keep everybody at eye level, looking at the eye level. The GameStop sign here is fine, other than the fact that the GameStop name is garbage. It seems like this is the PlayStation section over here, but then I'm seeing some green, so over here might be some Xbox, and this might be Xbox. Maybe this is Nintendo section or toys, but it's kind of confusing at first look what to look at, what they want you to see, and how they want you to walk around the store. And then the other thing to point out, which I'll point out in just a second. Let's see, oh, darn it. Defeated Bola Citadel with his exiles strategies. The other thing to point out here is just there's way too much games on shelves. The shelves are really flat. They're face out. Like you just don't need that. Like you're faking that your store is full of product that people want, when really 5 copies of Call of Duty in a row doesn't help anybody. You could do 1 stack of Call of Duty and then show the other games, and they're trying to spread it out so that more people can stand against the walls and look at those games, you would be better off having one of these shelves have a mixture of games, and then the next shelf be just an exact copy of that mixture, if that's the case, because then you'd have two people looking at more variety, thus more opportunity for them to buy different games, because the layout of any GameStop has always been you have to just scroll through the top shelf, then the second shelf, then the third shelf, then you have to take 2 steps to the right and scroll through the next group, and scroll through the next group, and scroll through the next group. If you're actually looking for something specific or looking for anything in general, nothing's highlighted, nothing's interesting there. That's not a great way to lay out your setup. Where if you compare that to like a library, nobody has, even if you have 5 copies of the dictionary, you probably aren't going to have an entire shelf of the exact same book right next to each other. You're going to put the duplicates in the back, or you're going to, well, libraries might actually put them side by side, but they tend not to have 5 copies of the dictionary also. But there's major improvements. Major improvements. If GameStop sold games, board games, card games, comic books, other things other than video games, they'd probably have a lot more variety in new ways. I've talked about that. Let's see. OBS, since I'm a YouTuber, did put out their changelog. For version 25, they added the ability to capture Vulkan-based games with game capture. Ubisoft Montreal submitted this feature. They added a new capture method to window capture, which allows capturing browsers, browser-based windows, and Microsoft Store UWB programs. Interesting. I've been not capturing browsers per se. I just capture the window, the entire display. So there might be some improvement. By default, it will use automatic, which will use the normal method for most windows, and then the new method on browsers, browser-based windows, Microsoft Story games. The downside of the new method is it causes a bit of cursor lag, as well as a highlight border around the capture window. The border itself does not get captured, however. You can choose the capture method when using the window capture property. So maybe I wait off and not use that new feature. Let's see. Kind of a major feature now, they've added advanced scene collecting importing. We can import from other common streaming programs. They've added a media source hotkeys to allow control of playback. For instance, stop, play, pause, and restart. Which I guess that means if you have a stop, play, pause button on your keyboard, which I think I actually do, it might actually work. For now, they're just hotkeys. User interface for this is planned in the future. They've added the ability to drag and drop URLs to create browser sources after displaying a confirmation prompt to ensure it was by intention. They did, with some update, kind of mess up my setup, and I had to go set it up before we started streaming today. Let's see, developers can add an embed to their web pages that let them pre-specify parameters that automatically get set in the source when it's dragged into OBS. I don't know how many developers would actually use that. They added a T-bar to studio mode. That is a way to cross-fade between transitions manually. So if you're going to have a fade in and fade out, now you can set your own time just by dragging the bar, where in the past you've had to just pre-specify a time, which was a little bit more rigid. Note this will not work when using the stinger transition or the cut transition. They added support for the SRT protocol, something I've never heard of. That's interesting. They've added a button grid mode to the scenes list. They've added the ability to lock volume values of audio sources via the right-click context menu in the mixer. That's probably a smart move. They've added source icons so that the sources look more varied when you're looking at your sources. So if I have a text box source that just displays text on the screen, it has like a T letter next to it. They've added support for cube LUT files. I have no idea what that is. They've added an option to show all audio sources to the advanced audio settings. They added an option to use a percentage rather than a decibel in the advanced audio properties. They've added a button to save replay buffers next to the replay buffer button. They added support for certain devices that can automatically rotate their camera output, such as the Logitech StreamCam. They added the ability to change the projector type to the projector's right-click context through the projector's right-click context. They added the ability to copy and paste multiple selected sources. They added an option to enable and disable BTTV or FFZ chat extensions when connecting to the Twitch account. I don't know what those are. They added custom quantization matrix options to the QSV encoder. Some of this is above my head, definitely. They added the option to toggle looping to the scroll filter. They added a fade to black option in the quick transitions in studio mode. They added the string specifiers for the file name formatting option in the advanced settings that allows you to specify certain settings such as the resolution and frames per second to the recordings. That would be very useful. Although you're not going to really be changing the resolution or frames per second in OBS very often. But maybe you then down mix the videos after that point. If you're recording like 4K videos and then you want them down make, then you use some other program to down mix them down to 1080p videos or something like that. They added a hotkey to reset the stats window panel. They added help icons when a property has a tooltip associated with it. They added monitor names in the monitor selection context menus. And video settings now show aspect ratio of the canvas and output resolutions. And that's just what they added in version 25. So it's a major number increase. And it's not adding anything amazingly new, but it is adding quite a lot. And I'm not even going to bother to come over and look at the bug fixes and the changes and tweaks. But assuming version 25.0 doesn't have a major bug in it, which seemingly it doesn't, because I'm using it right now, that's nice. It's certainly nice to see that that's getting improved upon. Here we have Peggy rating Stories Untold for the PS4 as a Peggy 16. Peggy is the European game rating service. We don't hear a lot about European games getting rated, but yeah, something like that does happen on occasion. And speaking of games getting rated, the game Lust for Darkness is returning to the Nintendo Switch after censoring for the ESRB. Lust for Darkness is the they're calling it Dawn Edition. It was removed July 2019 from the eShop with an 18+ rating. Lust for Darkness was, I think, the game that was the Eyes Wide Shut looking game. people weren't able to really put much footage out because basically any direction you looked in the game you were seeing something that needed to be censored or blurred. And I don't think it was much of a game otherwise. It was definitely selling on being one of the most extreme, like, pornographic type games out there, with also Cthulhu-esque horror elements, and a cult storyline. It's always nice to see games like that try to push the boundaries, but also, particularly in video games, games like that tend not to be as good as you would hope they would be. There was that other game that came out before Lust for Darkness. I believe came out a little bit before it. Maybe Lust for Darkness actually came out before that game, come to think of it. That called Agony. Yeah, Agony, which again was trying to push the bounds of decency, or push the borders, and it wasn't much of a game. And then there was another game that was very similar to the look of Agony that I don't believe ever even came out. So I think that game probably just got canceled. And yeah, I don't know if we're still in the position where a lot of adult games are coming to the Switch, or if it really is just more of a case of everything is coming to the Switch eShop and Nintendo kind of doesn't care. As long as it's on the eShop and not getting physical releases. Now that's going to be weird as we more and more get into a scenario where fewer and fewer people are buying physical versions of the game. But in the eShop, I guess you can just set the age limit. So one would hope that 10-year-olds aren't going to the Nintendo eShop and seeing games like Lust for Darkness promoted to them. But the Switch is a weird option in general for downloading games because it has very limited memory, and I would recommend most people buy used games for the Switch more than anything. They finally put out some images I saw of what the expansion non-volatile memory for the Xbox Series X is going to be. It's a Samsung branded special slot that doesn't really connect, so it's not an M2 stick. It's basically the same memory, I think, as an M2 stick, but they're working fairly hard to make sure it only is Samsung memory so that it runs at the right speed. It comes in 1 terabyte sizes, and one might assume that they might expand that later, but even at 1 terabyte for an M2 disc, you might be talking $200 or $300. So yeah, that expansion is going to be pretty expensive. Also, since you start with a terabyte of SSD in the Xbox Series X anyways, I don't think many people are going to need it. You can still use a USB hard drive to back up your games. So what you're really talking about with the 1 terabyte SSD expansion is that you potentially want to have more than a terabyte worth of games installed at the same time on your Xbox Series X. And at a certain point, it might be cheaper and more efficient just to buy a second Xbox Series X than it would be to have the expansion. But it is future looking, certainly, because eventually 1 terabyte of M2 memory won't be that expensive. But they are definitely trying to lock you into a proprietary memory format so that it is a certain certified speeds. That they don't really need to do that. They could have easily had an M2 slot and then had you plug in anything you could buy over the counter for a PC, any M2 stick, and then what they could have done is simply had the had the Xbox run a test on the memory and just say, is this fast enough, yes or no? And that would have been perfectly acceptable as a solution. But no, that's not what they did. And I wouldn't be surprised if fairly quickly people create hacks and adapters so you can stick an M2 slot into it. Let's see. I'm gonna do this. Get rid of that. And here we go. 1 and that. And that. That's as far as I can go that turn. I guess he could have taken me out that turn. Alright. Can I activate this? I need how much? 2 mana. I'm just gonna say no attacks here. Actually, I should have probably attacked with that. That would have got me more health. Well, that might have been a mistake there. So we'll see if we can win this. So, reach and trample. Alright, that. Then that. And then we can do this. And then we can do this. And that should be 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. And that should work. Let's see if this works. If I bone this up, I'm gonna be in trouble. But I didn't manage to bone it up, so thank goodness for that. Although, did I like that match? I guess I won, so I'm not going to complain about a match that I won. Hey, that's new. Always like to see new cards. Next, we have a game on Steam called Unlock the Kings. This looks like a single screen Unity puzzle game. Looks like it's a chess-based Minimalistic is what it's being tagged as. 74 cents discounted. English full audio doubtful. I suspect this is a pretty short game. They're saying it's 3D boards based on Rubik's cubes, which I don't really see the comparison here, frankly. To Rubik's cube? No. I don't think that there's enough here to interest me, even though the price is cheap. I think Digital Devolver said Metal Wolf Chaos XD is on sale. Yeah, it's half off, $12.49. This came out July or August 6, 2019. So I clicked on a link and it got a 65 on Metacritic, so it's not even a particularly good game. It's on my following list. I guess what I could look here is and see that it does follow enough credibility to be on the wish list. But this is like a weird game that they republished or made a repolished version of. I wouldn't call it a full remake or anything, just kind of a remaster. It's playing the sound effects twice now, but it does follow the rules enough to justify being on the wish list. Of course, I'd have to give it a long think about whether I want to play in a niche game like that, just because, particularly since I don't have any nostalgia for it. Alright, well, guess we've got no choice but to play those. Then just go ahead and attack. Tech Raptor has an article here. The latest Overwatch log hints at a potential new hero. I don't know if anybody really cares about Overwatch anymore. I certainly don't. But yeah, if they were going to add new heroes, they should have done that a lot more consistently. And well, I don't know if there really was much other things they could have done. Just tried to convince more people to be interested in Overwatch for the long haul. It does have a dedicated fan base, but I don't feel like that fan base grew enough. I can attack here. Let's see what he decides to do on that. Tech Raptor has an article here. Samsung's Play Galaxy Link ending only after a few months. I have no idea what this is, so I clearly didn't hear anything about it. It's supposed to be a game streaming app, I guess. I have a Samsung phone. I did not see anything about Play Galaxy advertised to me, which is a good thing. I suppose that Samsung phone users aren't getting advertisements shoved in their faces. I wouldn't have used the name Play Galaxy for sure, because Google Play in particular already exists, and I don't know what Amazon's service is. There's Amazon Arcade, which is its own separate thing, but I don't know whether there's anything that integrates games for achievements and things like that, like the Google Play services do. It probably just is the App Store integration, if I was to guess. Right, well, do I want to attack again? I guess I do. Hey, that was my card. What kind of BS is this? How did he get my card? Well, that's annoying. But you know what? I know exactly what to do. Then I'm gonna do this. To put this on the field. And then I'm gonna take this to sacrifice that again. And put it back on the field. TechRaptor has an article here. Summer in Mara is coming this spring to the Nintendo Switch and PC. Which, okay, this looks like a Stardew Valley game if it was more 3D, third person. Farm sale, make friends, and protect Mara from evil hands. Let's see if we can get a general idea. Yeah, looks like a Hawaiian Polynesian character, kid. That does look very Stardew Valley. Looks like there might be more written characters. Now let me just so let me just say this. Koa is the name of the young girl you'll be playing on the shores of Mara. When you're naming a company like a country like Mara, which I don't recognize, and I don't know if that is really a country at all, you might not want to call it summer in Mara or anything in Mara, because you could take that the wrong way if you have a dirty mind, and that does not sync when you're playing a game that as a young girl named Koa. So yeah, just seeing that title, I'm like, yeah, that could be a porn title name if you wanted it to be. Better English, I guess, would be Mara in Summer. Or My Summer. Yeah, I don't know why you name the place you are in when you're having a summer. It seems like the summer would be the more important element there, not the location. Like, if it was My Summer in Hawaii, you'd go My Hawaiian Summer. Would be a better title. I bet there's probably a way to say My Marian Mara-ian Summer. Anyways, moving on, because I'm kind of rambling here. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Chronos, spelled with a K, releases Vulkan ray tracing provisional extensions for developers' feedback, which ray tracing on Vulkan hardware does sound like ray tracing in general is getting more support and more development. And boy, do I want him to fix this audio bug. This is bad. It's real bad. Alright. Guess we'll just do no blocks. And then we'll go ahead and start doing this. Yeah, I don't think I really need to attack here. Like, attacking with this might be interesting, but I don't think it's needed. So just end turn. Let's see. The E3 Twitter feed, since E3 was canceled, and they have this announcement from the 11th pinned, but 19 hours ago they go, if you're staying at home for social distancing, what games are you playing? This is a example of trying to promote yourself during the COVID pandemic, and it comes off a little sleazy and slimy. They're trying to, I guess, start a conversation, but honestly they would have been better just staying silent, because inherently all it really does is remind people that E3 was canceled, whereas since E3 is a lobbying group, they could have just had any other of their members put out the exact same tweet, or they could have given just an internal memo to their members saying, hey, here's our suggestions as far as what kind of bits of advertisement you should put out there based on the information we're seeing. But that lobbying groups really are shadow organizations that don't work well in the light of the day. E3 should put only out tweets centered around E3 and be silent for the vast majority of the rest of the year. And inherently, since you're social distancing, you're not really going to be playing a lot of new games so much as you'll probably be just playing old games, which does not benefit video game companies as much as you would think. There might be a good argument to say that the particularly frugal and poor video gamers that were getting games from the library are going to be in trouble. Libraries need to start thinking about how can they have a pickup delivery service set up so that the librarians could still get paid and people could still get access to that information. Right now, I imagine a lot of libraries are just completely shut down. And that's not going to benefit society in the way that libraries should. But also I would definitely not want, sorry, I'm just fading off here. I also wouldn't want libraries open to kids and touching all the books and cross-contaminating amongst themselves. It's going to be really hard for kids, frankly. Having Skype numbers and things like that of their friends and doing Skype calls and such, and being pen pals and things like that are things that I think we're going to see more and more of that kind of stuff happen, or you should probably do that. Okay. Let's see. Moving on, Gametsu has an article. The Good Life adds the Switch version, GDC trailer, and gameplay. It was previously announced for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This is the weird, like, life game where you're playing as this girl, and she's gonna have to make money to get all kinds of needs, and she's trying to escape debt, and she has to buy like feminine hygiene products, I think was one of the major factors. I think this is still in development, but also she like turns into a cat during the night. Isn't that something I think happens? Like it really does. it's from one of those Japanese developers that does weird things, and he seems to have, like, he's gonna be even weirder in this one. And weird is not bad in my book by any means, but it is strange to say the least. A strange concept. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. The Steam Game Festival returns this week. I have no idea what the Steam Game Festival is. Let's see. The Game Awards was a great show last year, and having 73% more viewership than 2018. It also featured the debut of the Steam Game Festival. We'll see make its return earlier than expected. So, a Steam community announcement for the upcoming game Raji and Ancient Epic mentions the festival by name and states that it will be active arriving soon. I guess this is Raji. Interesting. When is the Steam Game Festival? What is the Steam Game Festival? It'll be upcoming Wednesday, March 18th. It took place, the last one took place roughly 3 months ago. So it could be a quarterly event. And it could explain why the Game Awards bowed out from attending E3 2020. See, but there's nothing in this article, unfortunately, that tells you what the Steam Game Festival actually is. So here's the link to Raji, which is already on my follow list. This might be one of those games being made by an Indian company. But yeah, I have no idea what the Steam Game Festival is, and I guess the thing you would do is you just go home. If there's a Steam Game Festival going on Steam, just clicking the home button, if it wants to so load that page, would probably tell me something about it. Let's see. All I'm seeing here is a 75% off Ubisoft games. Your standard collection of new games at the top being mentioned. Nothing new. A mega sale on the week Midday Madness. And some daily sales of games. And yeah, the front page seems not to mention anything as far as a Steam Festival, which allegedly was supposed to be happening right now. So I don't know what you take from that. Maybe he was wrong, maybe he was just making stuff up, maybe there was some false information being leaked, maybe they were testing to see if somebody would leak false information to see if they were trustworthy, or if they'd break NDAs, things like that. We may need to just end the stream kind of early, because we've got a ton of news and I'm not getting through it very fast. And let's see if we can get through the news, and I'll leave the games for Friday. We're having a Sleepy Wednesday at the moment, and that may very well lead into a Sleepy Friday. TechRaptor has an article, Medieval Engineer updates and exits early access and lowers its price. That being said, Medieval Engineers does not look to me like it is a decent game, and it probably is coming out of early access just because they've given up on it, if I was to guess, from the looks of it alone. Alright, we need to do this, and this is what I've been failing to do, is ensure that before I start each turn, I sacrifice this Cauldron Familiar twice, and see if there was just a way to automate that. But I guess, in all fairness, if you were playing a real-world version of Magic the Gathering, they wouldn't allow you to just say every turn before my turn starts, I'm going to sacrifice this guy twice, and they'd make you call it just to be fair. Hey, Is there a need for more health? I don't think so right now. Just go ahead and do no attacks. Not in play. Gamatsu has an article here. The strategy card game Ferraria is coming to Switch this spring. We're probably going to have a long list of games coming to the Switch, since these were probably all just broken up from the Switch Indie announcements. The strategy card game Wingspan is added to the Switch version due out this summer. Wingspan looks like an interesting card game in the sense that it's based on birds. I don't know how many people are interested in looking at birds or getting information about birds, but it's something different from the standard fantasy games that you typically get. Let's see. The shoot 'em up B.Arc is coming to the Switch in the late 2020s. Pugs, cats, bears, and bunnies save the solar system. No video for that one. That one probably needed a video to explain it more. But I imagine we'll get more hype bits of information on all of these games. Let's see. Here's something going to exit. I know what I need to do. Yeah, sacrifice that creature first. It may not have been a smart move to sacrifice it at that moment, but whatever. All I really would need is Bowl Citadel. I can probably win from that alone. Although, I may make him run out of cards at this rate also. Straight up screwed that up. I may still lose here. Alright, Gamatsu has an article. The shoot 'em up and block breaker hybrid Sky Racket is now available for Switch. It was originally released on PC, so we could look at the Steam store instead of just watching a video. It's rated very positively. It looks like a shoot 'em up game with breaking. Well, it's $14.99, which is a little expensive. It's English full audio and a bunch of other languages. It does seem like it's perhaps a slightly better brick breaking game because you're moving to the side breaking bricks and the ball just bounces off the ground, and I probably would bounce off the sky too if you hit it high enough. So it feels like there might be a slight improvement in this style based on compared to an Arkanoid game. Now the background's a little distracting, but not too bad. I'm gonna put this on the wish list if it matches the criteria, rated positively. So, yep, that's going. Let's see, sacrifice an artifact. That's not the one I clicked on, game. That is not the card I clicked on. Yeah, we are definitely running into problems trying to cover all the art and come back here to mostly just listen to the audio. Without that audio feedback, I do have to play a little bit slower. Alright, this is gonna suck. Again, I probably shouldn't let it do that. Or I probably should let it do it. Because that would have just killed it and let me use another life thing on it. But I don't think it matters too much. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. The pixel art boss rush game Elder Souls adds a Switch version. I think I've heard about Elder Souls. Let's see, it has... It's not out yet. That's the thing. And I don't want to put games on the fall list just because I've heard of them. Looks like there could be something here of interest. But it also looks like it might be kind of nothing, because it does feel kind of empty. Yeah, it's a hack and slash boss rush game from as far as I can tell. Alright, block this guy. And then I lost. I don't know if I'm losing because I'm just moving so slow right now, or if I'm losing because of something else, but we're certainly not having as good of a win streak as we were Monday. Like Monday we were having a really good win streak. Yeah, there's still no reason to waste gold when we're particularly low on gold. Like, honestly, I should come back on Friday and say I just played 15 games to victory on this today and tomorrow, and then we should play 15 games to victory on Friday, and I should play over the weekend. I should just try and get as much gold as possible and grind as much rewards as possible. But yeah, let's not do that. So I don't know if I'm not going to play any more games. I'm going to tease it here, I guess, a little bit, but let's just cover some of the news without having to click back here and focus on this, because my mind is not awake right now to do that. Gamatsu has an article here. Pixel Junk Eden 2 is announced for the Switch. Another Pixel Junk game, although I couldn't tell you what Pixel Junk Eden 1 was. So I'm gonna leave that. Quantum League adds PS4, Xbox One, and Switch versions. So this game might be something. Let's go over to its Steam page and see how it's doing on reviews. It's not out yet. What? I thought it was already out. Well, so yeah. Reviewers, I think, have this and are playing it, because I'm fairly certain I heard somebody on Giant Bomb say they were playing this, but it does not seem like anybody else is playing it, so It'll be you just can't really tell then, because reviewers aren't going to be able to stress test the servers enough. Warner Brothers game support was retreated by Warner Brothers 3 hours ago. They said Xbox One players should start to see online access restored. 21 hours ago they said we're aware of Xbox One users having trouble connecting to the online services for Mortal Kombat, Middle-earth, Shadow of War, Injustice 2, which are basically all the WB games that have online support. This is more of a growing story of just everybody's at home, everybody's using the internet. So there's a there's a lot of bandwidth getting used up here. Game has the same story. Summer Mario launches for Switch and PC this spring, PS4 and Xbox One a bit later. This one screenshot is rather nicely drawn, but yeah, the main game didn't look terrible, but I don't think it's my style of game. Still want to play Slime Rancher. That's the closest thing to a Stardew Valley game I want to play anytime soon. Game Master has an article. The game Moving Out demo is now available. A pre-order bonus DLC has been announced. Moving Out starring these characters. Let's see if we can get an idea of what it is. It's rated E, Peggy 3. So it's like 4 characters working together to actually move things in kind of like a co-op simulator game. Almost certainly a game that would not work for me. And in all fairness, moving furniture is a job, and any game that simulates a job is not something I want to do at all. So, yeah, easily skippable game for me. Dicey Dungeons is coming to the Switch in late 2020. It is on Steam. Let's see if the reviews on this. Very positive on my wish list. Yeah, Dicey Dungeons, a dungeon game with dices, for lack of a better extent. A dungeon crawler with dice rolls, roguelike type game. Alright, so we're seeing several several Steam games that have been out for a while coming to the Switch, and Gamma Sutra is not loading, so that's that. OpenCritic has this article. A PlayStation 5 reveal event was scheduled for March 18th. So far, I have not seen anything been revealed, though. It should have been happening as we were streaming. So when I go back to my Twitter account, we'll probably have something to say around that. Blair Witch is coming to the Switch this summer. It's currently available for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Again, I'll have to look and see if that's what the rating on the Blair Witch is. They don't have a direct link to Steam. Let's see. We actually have very little games. It's just the same, just a bunch of art announcements. Announcements combined with very little games coming out might be a signal of something bad for the video game industry, but I mean, every industry is going to be hit, so no big surprise there. If anything, self-isolating could cause a lot more game sales to happen and might be good for the industry. Gamatsu has an article here for Subliminal coming to the Switch this summer. This is the forced perspective puzzle game. I do want to play it, but again, haven't gotten around to it. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article, Explore the Afterlife on the Switch in I Am Dead, which seems like a game that is being announced. Doesn't really look like much. That's a weird story title for what the animation style is. I'll wait till that comes out though to try and find it on Steam. A game called Baldo for the Switch launches this summer. It's also coming out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. A lot of the games are getting announced as indie Nintendo games, but are coming out to everything else. This might be a point-and-click adventure game, as far as I can tell. Some other screenshots, but I want to deep dive into figuring out what any of these games are. TechRaptor has an article. Most of those articles were Gematsu articles. Smash Brothers Ultimate Inspired Bounty Battle revealed, coming this summer. So there's a game called Bounty Battle that's in development that has the Guacamelee character. Let's see if we can recognize any of these other characters. I think I recognize that, but I couldn't name it. Not really. I'm surprised Shovel Knight isn't in here somewhere. He very well may be, and I'm just not seeing him. Let's see if we can get a list. Includes game characters from Guacamelee, Darkest Dungeon, Dead Cells, Awesome Knots, Axiom Verge. They're not even putting in commas in the right place. Seymour Dig, The Bug Butcher's Block. I bet that's two games. The Bug, Butcher's Block. It'll feature a story mode, local co-op, and a roster of over 20 characters, each with their own moveset library. Interesting. We kind of do need something that would be on PC, and I assume this would be on PC to compete against Smash Brothers. Also, having indie game characters in a separate game instead of just making Smash Brothers be the one game that has all the characters might be helpful in having more people actually play certain characters, because the pros playing Smash Brothers are probably only playing 2 or 3 characters, and then the rest are kind of frivolous, unimportant additions or skins on characters that already exist. Yeah, that sounds like that's one of the attempts of making a Smash Brothers competitor that actually might succeed compared to most attempts that are just doomed to failure from day one. Gematsu has an article. An action-adventure game called Blue Fire has been announced. Which, do we have a trailer? See, kind of like a puppet-looking creature. Yeah, it seems like it's a fast-paced platformer with maybe some darkness and maybe some small areas. Seems like you're gonna do some battle and maybe even some stealth, but mostly you're gonna be running and platforming. There might be something there, yeah. And then doesn't look terrible. TechRaptor has an article about B-Arc. It says it combines side-scrolling shooter and sci-fi animals, which is not really the kind of game I would want to play, unless it just turned out to be like the best side-scrolling shooter ever, and I doubt that's the case. Yep, nothing more inspiring there. TechRaptor has an article, light a spark with The Last Campfire, a brand new game from the developers of No Man's Sky, Hello Games, or the publishers of No Man's Sky. See what this video looks like. Looks like it's kind of an adventure game, as far as I can tell. Let's see. Last Campfire has been in the work for a few years, though. It was first announced in late 2018, so one would hope that it's closer to its release date. TechRaptor has an article about that game Baldo, which is an RPG apparently. Yeah, it does look like a Ni no Kuni type game. Yeah, they are definitely giving me a lot more information than Gematsu does. Gematsu, all about the short and sweet articles that then often they put out 3 or 4 different articles on the same game because of that, instead of having more detail in just one place or updating an announcement page to have more information. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Graffiti Games Blue Fire has a high-flying parkour. Blue Fire was the game we were just looking at, and in this case they don't have the video. So yeah, that explains why I keep both of those as sources. Exit the Gungeon is now available for Switch and PC alongside a version 2.0 updates. Exit the Gungeon, the sequel to Enter the Gungeon, that I think plays a little bit differently than the first game. I don't think it is just like a direct sequel. Let's see. Matsu has the Afterlife themed puzzle adventure game I Am Dead announced. I already looked at that. So I guess it's a puzzle adventure. Kind of like a point and click adventure. The puzzle game Filament launches April 23rd for the PC and 2020 for the Switch. This game, Filament, different from the game Filament that I thought already existed. I felt like there was a Deponia, no, I forget the name of the company that released Deponia. I thought they had a game named Filament. I'll have to do some research on that. I'm skipping over games, but there really isn't even a ton of games that came out, so it's going to be like five games that came out on Steam left for Friday. TechRaptor has an article here. Intellivision shares stylish Amnico gameplay montage. I don't know if this is a actual game though, and I don't know what Amnico is, whether it's supposed to be just a collection of old Intellivision games, of which you'll spend probably 2 minutes playing each game and then get bored. Yeah, apparently it's either some kind of service or some kind of collection, or maybe it's a like Intellivision mini console thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it was that, actually. TechRaptor has an interesting article here. Animal Crossing water bottle selling for over $13,000. So it's a water bottle with an Animal Crossing pattern on it, and somebody is charging way more than what it's worth. It's probably a bug or somebody just being ridiculous. Inherently, listing something on Amazon is fairly easy to do, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's just trolling. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Kamiko for the PS4 launches March 19th in North America. The PS4 version will finally service in the West. Kamiko is part of the... what is that? Under the Winter Moon series? Yeah. It looks like it's based off that. Maybe it's not part of that series. I'm not seeing anything at all. Does it come... did it come out on Steam? Yeah, Reverie Under the Moon, I believe, is the game I'm thinking about. But actually this game looks really different, so it may be nothing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about this one during a fall list cleanup, because this might not be worth playing. $4.99, and I don't know if there's anything more I want to even investigate or look there. Let's see. Gamma Sutra's article won't open, so actually this may be perfect, because that means like 6 out of the 7 remaining articles are all Gamma Sutra articles. So we'll have to leave that for Friday. Gamatsu has an article here. Deep Sky Derelicts Definitive Edition is announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, due out March 24th. I think I've heard of this game. Is it a kind of roguelike experience? No, this is the Slay the Spire game in space. Which I don't know if the popularity of Slay the Spire games lasted as long as they thought it was going to. Yeah, we may be getting a little bit more fad-based in video game styles, and it may just be every 2 years or so we have a completely different thing, completely different style of game that's the big interesting thing, and then that will probably get replaced with another big interesting thing again. Let's see. Yep. And I still have stuff that I've forgotten to check up on from like a week ago. And then that brings me to the Humble Bundle. Let's see if we have anything new. Let's see. The Just Drive bundle is not new. But what is new is the Capcom Mega Bundle. So, let's see. Strider, if you pay $1, Strider and the Mega Man Legacy Collection. I'd have to do some research here. But then Resident Evil 2 Episode 1, Resident Evil 2 all in-game words unlocked. This is Resident Evil 2 Revelations, by the way, not Resident Evil 2. Then if you pay $10.81, you get the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, which is mix reviewed, the Resident Evil 2 HD Remaster, the Resident Evil Revelations, Resident Evil 2 Revelations Complete Season, 50% off the Resident Evil 2 Humble Bundle store, which I don't know if that means you get a Steam code to buy Resident Evil 2 itself. There's a lot of shadiness here because Resident Evil Revelations 2 is being hyped up, and then 50% off Devil May Cry there. And if you pay $20 or more, you get Mega Man 11, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which is also mixed, Dragon's Dogma Dark Rising, Devil May Cry 4, Resident Evil HD Remaster, and Dead Rising 4. There might be a deal here. I think it's probably not paying $20 or more. It may not even be worth paying the average of $10.81, but I think that might be your best deal, because Resident Evil Revelations Episode 1 and then Resident Evil 2 all in-game rewards doesn't work. Like, you have to then have Resident Evil 2 for this to work, this DLC. So you're getting screwed on that. So you're getting screwed anyways, because then you have to buy Resident Evil 2. This is Capcom in a nutshell. You can't really do anything with this unless you just have the complete season. So you're kind of getting screwed there too. So yeah, this is Capcom. Very greedy and often not giving you what you think you're getting and not giving you the best bundle ever. But it probably is also the best deal you would get for Capcom stuff, so, and it's not likely that you would not want to play some of the Resident Evil stuff, although Revelations is not easily skippable. So yeah, it also would unlock the ability to buy Steam bundles and get a bigger discount, because Resident Evil Revelations in particular is the one thing I don't have on the Resident Evil bundle that would make it way more expensive. So that means I'm just going to go back to my Twitter feed. I mean, I could highlight some games and other things. We got some other things we could go through. For instance, TechRaptor has this article: Jill Valentine's new Resident Evil 3 remake, less sex appeal, more practicality. Here you have the way she's being shown here, with a double top, which seems kind of silly, and a necklace and just bare shoulders and arms, and her haircut is slightly less in her face compared to the original one, where she had more of a tube top and then a skirt, a sweater around her skirt. Now, I believe in the story she was kind of out having fun and clubbing when the Raccoon City outbreak happened, so it's not unrealistic either outfits, and hardly like this outfit is super sexy by any means. If anything, if they hadn't put in this second undershirt, there would be actually more cleavage in the new design than there would have been in the old design. So yeah, neither one particularly sexy, although we don't see like what kind of pants she's wearing, if she's just wearing jeans, and what kind of boots or shoes she might be working. The art director says sex appeal is not the right direction. I kind of agree, since it's a horror game. Nothing really needs to be there for that kind of game, and there will be plenty of modders willing to change the outfits, and we've seen that in the Resident Evil 2 remake quite a bit, is that there are quite a lot of mods that straight up put Jill and the character, I think it's still Jill in the Resident Evil 2 remake, just put her in either scantily clad clothing, or more often than not I see her straight up naked, and I think that might even be the name of the mod, is the Naked and Afraid mod, which is an interesting concept for a horror game if you're going to empathize with that. I don't know how many people would be playing that mod and actually empathize with the absolute terror of being in a zombie apocalypse and having no clothing, but also it's very unrealistic that you would have absolutely no clothing for the entirety of the game. That's something more you could do in a scene or so. Have her have all of her clothes infected or in some way destroyed, and then she steals clothes from a corpse and moves on from that point. But yeah, I don't think the vulnerability aspect there is worth the drama it would cause. But it is very much another example of how, like, the puritanical feminism movement, subgenre movement, is continuing to push an agenda that's kind of silly, and particularly pushing it against video games where most of those people don't play video games and don't represent people who play video games. And unfortunately, the Japanese are hearing these messages they shouldn't be hearing and taking them to heart, for the outsiders. Now, in Japan, I imagine the outfit will be whatever they want it to be, but maybe there is even some influence gaining from that perspective. Remember, Japanese people don't care about, like, scantily clad people or nudity at all. They public bathe their entire lives, so seeing someone naked or even scantily clad doesn't mean anything or mean too much to them. It really just has to do with the context, which is kind of a more evolved way of perspective anyways to take the human body. It's like if somebody's been run over and they're dying on the road, I wouldn't care if a boob popped out at that point, whereas if somebody was going to sleep with me and they popped out a boob, that's a very different context. I'm ranting at this point. Here's the Enter the Gungeon on Steam. It's oddly mixed, so it doesn't seem like people are even having the best time with it. And it looks like it's more of a platformer game. Did I call this Enter the Gungeon? This is Exit the Gungeon. Yeah. I'm gonna put it on the follow list, but it does kind of feel like people are less interested. We also have RBI Baseball 20, which is already mostly negative. Let's see why. Let's see. It's super bare bones and almost feels like a demo. There isn't a fantasy draft option in franchise mode, which is only 10 seasons for some reason. All the animations are janky and it feels lackluster all around. Wow. Well, that is certainly no way to release a game, Major League Baseball, particularly in the current climate where a baseball game simulator would have been really good if it was actually good. In fairness, though, I will say this Australian football coach game looks even worse visually. This does just look terrible for even a simulator game. $19.99, English only. Let's see. We have the game Crown and Pawns, Kingdom of Deceit. Getting mentioned. It's already on my fall list, so I don't need to do anything more there. We had already talked about that. And then we have a game called Profitania, which this was like a business strategy game like Gazillion. Kind of like a modern take on Gazillion. I'm going to put it on the follow list and see if people actually would want to play it. I don't think too many people even want to play Gazillion, which made it very weird that was coming back. Alright, and seems like Gamasutra is working again. So we'll go through those articles. UKIE partners with law firm Sheridan's to open a COVID-19 contract hotline. Why this has anything to do with video games, I don't know. I guess UKIE might be a video game company, but I've never heard of it. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article. Ubisoft, EA, and more join the ranks of devs working from home due to COVID-19. Which pretty much, I think we're going to just have to assume that everybody is going to be doing that, and just mention the people who aren't doing that. A Nintendo staff working from home after the Nintendo staff are working from home after an employee tests positive for the coronavirus, which is like pretty much guarantees that a lot of people at Nintendo and in that area in general are infected. We already talked about that. I don't want to give any more press to that Minecraft Free Plus server because it doesn't seem like it's anything useful for people. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Reboot Develop Blue is the latest game event rescheduled due to the coronavirus. I think we already covered that too. I have so many tabs open that we'd already talked about. Insomniac Games is hiring a lead level designer in Burbank, California. And one more Gamma Sutra. Epic Games acquires the facial animation tech studio Cubic Motion, which would mean things like Fortnite might have better face animation. Okay. Now that brings me back to my Twitter feed. A 2D platform called Wingia is coming to the Switch on March 26th. Just a screenshot here, apparently. It's available now on Xbox One and PC. And I don't want to click on it and do the research on screen. So, Chaos Code New Sign of Catastrophe is coming to the Switch on March 26th. We'll just show the image here, not even open that tab. Shadow Man Remastered has been announced for the PS4, Switch, and PC. I am super surprised that this is getting a remaster. Now, how much of a remaster? Because it really needs a remake more than anything. Shadow Man looked pretty terrible now. Graphics. It was a 1999 action adventure game that I really liked, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna. I'll go with the remasters, give today's generations of gamers all the features that they expect from a modern title, while preserving the qualities that made this Valiant's iconic character in the original Shadow Man such a memorable game. So, yeah, I guess maybe it is just going to be a full-on remake, reboot. I don't know how much reboot. Over 40 cutscenes and hours of in-game speech. Shadow Man remasters, great. It also gives me a great excuse to not play the original game and just do a spotlight on it, because it did look particularly dated for a 1999 game. And it's always a funny story to tell, also how I was accidentally allowed by a Toys R Us employee to buy that game when I was probably well below the M-rated 18 age limit that you would expect. I recall the employee going, the embossed skull logo that you just saw was on the front of the Nintendo 64, I believe, cartridge, and she's looking at it and goes, "Boy, that looks gross." And I'm like, "Yep." And she just kept on checking it out, and I'm like, "All right." There was at least 2 or 3 times where the people asked me for ID because I was accidentally buying an adult game like BMX XXX. I bought that on accident thinking it was just a racing game because the logo just didn't lock into my head. And I was over 18 at the point, and they did card me, at least on that one. but there definitely were games I was buying where the people behind the counter did not care or did not know. This was, of course, the old days before they had more computerized point of sales devices. So that probably what doesn't happen as much these days. Let's see. TechCraft has an article here. Sin Episodes Emergence has vanished from Steam libraries. Not available to play, download, or buy. Fans that paid for the game has disappeared from the Steam libraries without a trace. Started a month ago when Steam users started a thread called Removed, and he asked why. Let's see. Interesting. Night Dive Studios apparently owns it. So this is the dangerous future people do not want, where games could potentially be removed from your library even if you purchase them. And I don't think I was ever going to play the Sin series, but that certainly doesn't sound good. And all that's going to really do is point people back to piracy. If I did want to play Sin Emergence, now I would just go and pirate it. TechRaptor has an article here. Coronavirus may delay a new Smash Brothers Ultimate Fighters. So, yeah. But I guess that's pretty much the case. An hour ago, they said the road to PS5 begins in 2 hours. It is almost certainly no coincidence that after Microsoft put out all the details for the Xbox Series X, that the PlayStation now finally are willing to speak. They were just waiting for somebody to blink effectively. TechRaptor has an article here. Animal Crossing New Horizons save encryption is already broken. So I guess if you want to hack it, that might be a option. The Resident Evil 3 remake demo is now available. Afterthought, we'll talk about that, is hiring a Unreal Engine 4 programmer. Persona 5 Royale might be too familiar for fans. TechRaptor article. Let's see. Do we have anything else that came out? So I guess we'll just have to talk about it on Friday as far as what came out, as far as announcements. Because yeah, I don't want to sit here for another 2 hours. And I don't want to jump back into a game. Like, yeah, I've had enough Magic for one day. Yeah. And that certainly is not a good statement because it does kind of. I was not 3 months into Hearthstone saying I don't want to play any more Hearthstone. And I was more than willing to play Hearthstone for many, many months, a year or two at least. Yeah. So I've opened a bunch of tabs and pages, mostly to just do some more research. But yeah, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon. Or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.